Hello, my name is Alison, and I have a lot to say about movies. From lists and stories to celebrities I love to look at and those who drive me crazy. Join me as I talk about whatever's on my mind at the moment. Welcome to Say Anything with Alison. Hey guys, welcome to Say Anything with Alison. I'm your host, Alison. And today I thought I would go over a recent movie. I went and saw this movie last year in the theater, and then I recently rewatched it because a coworker of mine finally saw it because it's streaming somewhere. I forgot. There's so many streaming services. Who can keep up? And they didn't like it as much as I did. And I decided they had some questions and they brought up some good points. And I decided to rewatch it to see if I really did still like the movie. And the movie is 2022's The Menu. Now, it's been said on this, on not only the podcast, but on this show that I love to cook. I love food. I love food shows. I love movies with food. In fact, I think I did a list of my favorite movies that have food scenes or something in it. So if you haven't listened to that, go back and listen to that. So when I went and saw this in the theater last year, I didn't really know much about the movie. Obviously, it's I knew who was in it based on the trailer, and it's plain that it is about food and people are experiencing a menu. But other than that, it was kind of billed as a thriller / horror. So I was like, well, this is interesting. So I went into the movie not knowing much about it, which I like to do, especially with some horror movies, because I don't want to go in with a preconceived notion about what I think is going to happen. And I've said this before, that sometimes I go in trying to figure out the twist, which is not a good way to experience a movie. So when I saw this movie last year, I loved it. I walked out of the theater saying that was pretty smart. I loved the food aspect. I loved the acting. I loved the ending. I thought it was pretty genius of a movie. So I would tell people to watch this movie once it was streaming, but it's not everybody's cup of tea. And I get that. It's a little bit, it has a lot of dark humor. It's satire. It's not considered horror to me, but I could see where people might think it. I don't know. Horror is such a broad term. So I guess it could be a new horror, but whatever you want to call it, I just thought it was a good movie. So when somebody I know recently streamed it and was like, it was okay. I didn't really get the ending. I didn't really like the ending, the twist. I didn't think it was as good as you had, painted it out to be. I decided to watch it again. I still really, really like this movie. So that was good that I didn't just like force myself to like it when I was in the theater. But I just kind of wanted to go over the movie in case anybody has seen it and had similar questions or criticism that this friend of mine did, and kind of go over things that I discussed with them to almost, I don't want to say like defend the movie, but kind of, have a conversation as to, yes, I get what you're saying, and here's what I got out of it. So I will say right now, if you have not seen this movie and you want to, you should probably turn this off, because I am going to spoil the movie. So if you're interested in watching this movie, just shut this off right now. Come back to it. Go see the movie. I'm almost positive it's on Hulu. So, but I will spoil the plot of the movie. So I don't want to do that if you plan on watching it. Okay. So The Menu, it's a small cast. Basically, it's one of those movies that's, it's kind of like a Glass Onion type movie. Knives Out, where there's just like a handful of casting characters, and they are all there for a purpose, and everybody has a different characteristic, demeanor to them. And throughout the movie, you're going to find out why each one of them is there and learn about them. And I like movies like that. It reminds me of like a mystery novel or like an Agatha Christie book or something that we read in school. This movie stars a lot of people that you know, and then other people that you might not know. The main people are Ralph Fiennes, who is also known as Voldemort. We have Nicholas Hoult, who you may know from X-Men. He's on that show, The Great, and he was in, I think it was called Warm Bodies, where he was like a vampire. John Leguizamo and Anya Taylor-Joy, who was the brilliant person in The Queen's Gambit. Also, Judith Light is in this movie, and I didn't even recognize her the first time I saw her, but she's from... oh my God, what is it with Tony Danza? You guys are screaming at me right now. Who's the boss? Angela. So Angela's in the movie. She's not very good in it, but which is sad because she's a brilliant actress. So those are the main people that you will recognize in this film. And the plot basically is this group of people are invited to a remote island to eat at a chef's exclusive restaurant, and the chef is played by Ralph Fiennes. It's Chef Slovic, and it's something like $1,250 per person, and you have to be invited to this restaurant. It's out in the middle of nowhere. It's on their own island. They grow their own, food and source their own meats and herbs and everything. It's beautiful. So there's a reason why he invited all of these people. Now, this cast of characters, they're all rich. Obviously, you have to have a lot of money to eat here. John Leguizamo is an actor. He's been doing these really, garbage films, but he just does it just to make money. He doesn't care about being an actor. He just wants the money. He's just like sleazy. And then he shows up with his manager, who's been stealing money from him, even though she has money. She just likes to steal money from him. So those are two horrible people. Then we have two food critics who are there, and you come to find out that every restaurant that she has criticized and wrote poorly about have had to shut down. So, really talented chefs have been out of a job. People have been out of a job. So all because they wrote, some scathing remarks about their food. We also have Judith Light and her husband, an elderly couple that are married that have been to this restaurant multiple times. You can clearly see something's going on in their marriage. They are disconnected. They don't talk to each other. She keeps looking at Anya Taylor-Joy's character, and you're like, oh, did he cheat on his wife with her? They seem to know each other. I don't know. You're trying to figure out what that is. But it's almost like they're just there because they've been there a bunch of times, and it's just any old Saturday night. Let's spend, $2,500 on food. We also have this table of three, yuppies. They work for the guy that has invested in this restaurant, and all they do is basically fraud people out of money, investments. They're just there because they think they're hot shit, because they have a lot of money and want to flaunt it, which sometimes when you see these Michelin star restaurants, you think that those are the people that go there. Do they really care about the food, or would they rather be at, Olive Garden or, Carl's Jr.'s or something like that? Like, are you there and you convincing yourself that this bone marrow tastes good, or is it just because it's a status symbol? So I think that was one of the, not plots, but one of the, the things, the takeaways that I got from this movie, because I've been watching so many of food shows, and I know so many of the chefs that they do on Food Network, and I'm like, do you guys really like eating this stuff with foam on top of it, or do you really just want a big old chicken sandwich? And then the final two people that are together are Anya Taylor-Joy's character Margot and Tyler, who is played by Nicholas Hoult. Now, the movie starts kind of revolved around them. He is super excited to go to this restaurant. He's a big foodie. He's been following this guy for years. He can't wait to go and eat all this food. Even the one little amuse-bouche that they give them on the boat ride to the island, he's like swooning over it. She's looking at all these famous people that are on this boat, and he's just like, yeah, but did you taste this raw oyster with foam on top? Like, it's just the best thing ever. I'm so excited. Now, you find out when they get off the boat and they basically check in well, she's not really a sous chef. She's kind of like the chef's right-hand woman. She looks at Margot and she's like, who are you? You're not on my list. And she said, no, I'm Margot. The original person that was supposed to come with Tyler basically can't come. And you find out that Margot is a high-end escort. His original person that was supposed to go with him was his girlfriend. She broke up with him. He had to have a +2. He had to bring somebody. You'll find out why later. And he hires Margot. So the assistant's immediately just like, oh, like, okay, you're not on my list. I don't really know what to do, but okay. So everybody sits down. Now I will say that the cinematography in this movie is just beautiful. This restaurant is set on, like I said, in an island. The land is beautiful. The actual restaurant is modern, clean lines, wood everywhere. It's, the kitchen's immaculate, obviously. There's all these windows that look out onto, the water. It's just gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. And I kind of paid attention to the score this time, and it was pretty good. I'm just not a person that listens to the score, but I'm trying to listen to it, but it was kind of, climatic. I guess it was good. So, but the cinematography was just great. The lighting, it was just really good. So as we start, he welcomes everybody, and you can tell they're all excited to be there. And then they start with all of the courses. Now, I do like that before every course, they have a little graphic that comes up, course 1, the amuse-bouche or the appetizer, blah, blah, blah. And then it describes what is in each course, and the courses just get, crazier and crazier. I think the first course is just one big sea scallop, but it's on like a big old giant rock with seaweed and local frozen water from the ocean. So it's basically like you're eating the ocean. I don't know. It sounds gross to me, but it was pretty to look at. And as the night goes on, you start to understand, you start to see almost every one of these characters are just assholes. They're horrible, horrible people. And you start to understand why they were invited there. And the chef basically tells them, you're part of the menu is you're going to die tonight. And it's like, they were like, oh, this is just great theatrics and da, 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 da. And wow, like I've never experienced this before. And, things just start happening. That's where a lot of people, I think, start, I don't know, getting a little confused and lost on this movie. I'm not going to go into each death or each thing that happened, but the conversation that I had with my friend was, why are all these people, why did he pick these people? And as I watched it again the second time, it was clearly obvious, and I already kind of went over it when I talked about each individual character, the three guys who are frauding people. Okay, well, they're horrible people. The elderly couple, during the night, the chef comes up and he's like, you guys have been to my restaurant how many times? And I think they said like 12. And he's like, no, actually it was, 15. And they're like, oh, okay, whatever. And the chef says, can you name one item that was on the menu the last time you came? Just one. And they're just kind of like sitting there. And the elderly guy goes, sea bass or something like that. And she's like, no, she's like, it was cod. And he's like, oh, cod. And the chef is like, no, it was, and he names off another fish. Maybe it was sea bass. And he said cod, but you could see the disgust on his face. Like you came here multiple times. You paid an exorbitant amount of money, something that the majority of the people, you guys are like the 1%, the majority of the people would never be able to pay for this menu. You eat here and you can't name one thing that you've eaten. And it's his art, a chef's food and menu is their art. And they're just none of these people are appreciating it, except for good old Tyler, who clearly is obsessed and idolizes this guy. But he is what Chef Slawick calls basically a faker. He's convinced himself that he is a cook and a foodie, and he can do everything that he does. So his disdain for him is very evident. He's taking pictures of each of the courses. I mean, that's a no-no. What is this, Instagram? So you can see all these people are just, I guess they deserve to die. They're just not good people. I don't know if anybody watches The White Lotus. I have a love-hate relationship with the show, and I know we don't talk about TV, but I've watched both seasons of The White Lotus, and I don't get it. I don't get the hype of this show, but I watch it and I look forward to it every week because I want to see what these horrible characters are going to do. And that is what this movie is. It was like these horrible, horrible people. You kind of feel sorry for them, but then it's like, no, you guys are all kind of jerks. And I see why you were chosen to die, why you were asked to be here and be part of the menu. You're asking for substitutions. You don't ask for substitutions on a price set menu, a price fixed menu. Like, you just don't do that. The one girl that is just really, really confusing Chef is Margot, because again, she was not supposed to be here. This menu was designed around the original people, and she was basically a last minute entry in the game, and he doesn't understand what to do with her. So I had to explain that to my friend that, clearly she is the one that stumped him, and you'll see that she's the smart one. So as the movie goes on, everybody starts, realizing they're stuck there. They can't escape. Nobody really tried to fight back very well. And I think the reason that they didn't fight back was because they are so used to flaunting their wealth to get out of things, to buy their way out, that they just don't really have the means or understanding to physically fight. It's like a flight and fight. They just, the old guy gets his finger cut off, which is horrible. But after that, it was like, okay, let's just sit here, eat our food, not complain. Maybe he'll let us go. Let's not look around and not ask for substitutions and not ask for bread when they give out a breadless plate. That was hysterical. The second course was a bread course, and it was set on a plate that looked like an artist's palette. And there was like little daubs of what looked like paint, but it was obviously like different forms of compound butter and olive oil and things like that. And no bread. And the three investor guys or whatever, they're like, yeah, we just need some bread. Like, whoever heard of, just eating butter off a spoon? And the other guy was eating it. He's like, oh, this is delicious. But they refused to give him bread. They're like, no. So that, I thought that was really funny. But yeah, they just don't want to confront anything after that point, after the finger is gone. Margot is really the only one who starts to figure out what is happening and want to put up a fight. And this movie had a lot of dark humor. Dark humor can be hit or miss for me. I mean, the whole movie was kind of satirical, and satire is hit or miss as well. But dark humor, it can be a little bit too much, but I think this movie did it perfectly. I mean, he was great with his dark humor. One of the funny things that I laughed a lot the second time around was the food critic was criticizing one of the things on the bread, the non-bread platter, and she said, "Oh, this emulsion is broken. It's a broken emulsion." Which happens a lot with, emulsions and hollandaise sauce, where if you cook it funny, the oil and the egg breaks and you can see that it kind of lays on top. And that's what happened with this. And apparently the chef heard her say that, and so the next course, he has them bring out a giant bowl of broken emulsion. And she was just looking at it like, oh. And, the assistant came on, they're like, "Chef wanted you to have this bowl of broken emulsion." And then a couple of courses later, he brings out another one. "Chef would like you to have another bowl of broken emulsion." It was just so funny to me. But, I see why other people wouldn't get that as funny. So, every course has a meaning. Every course has a reason to why it's on the menu. At one point, one of the sous chefs takes a gun and kills himself. Meanwhile, Tyler's just stuffing his face, and everybody's like, "Is that part of the act? Is that real? What happened?" You can start to see that the sous chefs are almost in a cult. It is a cult-like group dedicated to Chef. They are dedicating their lives to him, their work to him, and they are going to die with him this evening. And it's sad and it's kind of creepy. He does this creepy one clap after every course, and it's just very intense. I will say that this is probably one of Ralph Fiennes' best performances outside of Voldemort. I mean, I don't remember a lot of stuff that he's been in since Harry Potter movies. I still am like the many people who get him confused with Liam Neeson. Sorry, he's a way better actor. But he was just really good in this. I mean, he makes the chefs on Food Network look like puppy dogs. I mean, you think Chef Ramsay is a jerk? This guy's got nothing on him. So he was just great. Nicholas Hoult was great as Tyler. He ends up having to cook for the chef. The chef's like, "Oh, you're a foodie. You think you're a good cook? What? Come on, let's cook." He gives him a jacket. He writes his name, Tyler, in a magic marker on the front of it, which is so funny. Because a chef's jacket is prestige. It means you've made it and your name is always, sewn in, not with a magic marker. And he's like, "Go ahead, anything you want, cook me something." And he cooks him just garbage food, lamb with sauteed shallots and leeks. And he actually uses that as part of the course. It's funny. And he basically whispers something in his ear. And then, the next scene, you see that he has hung himself. So it's kind of saying like he broke him. The chef broke him with having him critique that garbage plate that he made and made him feel like he's not even worth living, that he had no problem saying, "Yes, chef," and went in the back and hung himself. It's just amazing. It was just, I don't know, this whole script was just brilliant. So, as the movie goes on, like I said, more and more people start realizing they're never going to leave. A couple more people get hurt and or die. But the most brilliant part is probably the final act. So Margot has to go and fetch a barrel for the final course, the dessert course, from the smokehouse. So he gives her the key to go to the smokehouse. He's really kind of testing her throughout this whole journey because he can't, like I said, he can't figure out who she is. He says, are you part of them or part of us? Are you a giver or a taker? So she starts playing along. And when she leaves the restaurant, she goes into this other place, and it's a exact replica of the kitchen that everybody's in, but it also has a bed, and it's where Chef lives. And she's like, holy crap, like he lives an exact replica of this kitchen. There's a bed, there's a little desk, there's some, family stuff. And she starts looking around and she sees this picture. And it shows that he was the employee of the month, when he was younger at a cheeseburger place, and he's smiling, and she can tell that it's a genuine smile. So you can see she's thinking, and it's obvious that this was where his happy place was. So when she makes her way back and everybody realizes, well, they're probably going to die, we're getting to the dessert course. She basically said, I'm hungry. I didn't like any of your food. She didn't really eat any of it because she thinks it's so silly. And he's like, well, what can I make you? And she goes, I want a cheeseburger. And he's like, a cheeseburger. And she goes, yeah, just a plain old cheeseburger and fries. And he kind of gets this like little smirk. So he goes in the back. He's like, I'm going to make you the best cheeseburger you've ever had. And he just makes 2 smashed burger patties with onions, salt, and pepper, puts it on a bun, gives her crinkle cut fries with American cheese. And as he's cooking it, you can see he's got like a little bit of happiness because it brings him back to his days, simpler times when he's just making something that people enjoy. He doesn't have to do this frou-frou stuff that, people expect of him. And he serves it to her. She takes one bite. She says, it's a great cheeseburger. Her eyes are bigger than her stomach. She asks if she can get it to go. And you're like, well, why would you get it to go? You're clearly not leaving tonight. And he looks at her and he says, that can be arranged. And he puts it in a to-go container, gives her a little like to-go goodie bag. And he says, there you go. And she just kind of looks at him like, oh shit, I'm allowed to leave. And he kind of nods over to one of the chefs, the sous chefs, and they open the door and he allows her to leave. And you're like, wow, she broke him. She figured it out. She figured him out. He's basically rewarded by the look on her face when she takes a bite of this burger, and it's simpler times, and that's all he cared about. And I thought that was just so amazing. Not to mention, this burger looked better than anything he served. Like, this burger just looks so freaking good. Side note, I can't eat a burger right now because I'm on a very strict diet. So I was just like salivating. I was like, oh my God, that burger. So Margot leaves. You're probably asking yourself, well, how did she leave if she's on an island and there's nobody on a boat to take her back? Good question, audience. Well, in the other room, she found an old radio and she called for help. Well, no one came to help, but there is a boat because, I'm sorry, somebody did come to help, but they were actually part of the act. So there is a boat hanging out there. So she got on the boat with her cheeseburger, started hauling ass away. So we know she's going to be good. And then we get to the final scene, and the final scene I am going to ruin for you because I thought it was brilliant, even though a lot of people think it's very cheesy. The final scene was the dessert course, which was s'mores. And I liked how he described it. He's basically like, look, it's garbage food. It's processed marshmallow and graham crackers and chocolate. It's like the most simplest thing ever. But for some reason, everybody, reminds themselves of comfort. It's like a comfort nostalgia dessert. And you're all going to be a part of it now. So he basically put a kind of was like a shawl, like jacket made out of marshmallows on them so their arms couldn't escape. He put a giant chocolate hat on the top of their heads. And around their legs, they were all sitting in their chair, and around their legs, he had this beautiful, it almost looked like one of those Zen gardens with like sand and stuff, only it was graham crackers. And then he had these giant sticks with giant marshmallows laid out. And, he thanked his staff, basically like, "We love you, chef." I think they did one final clap, and he dropped fire down on the floor, and all of the graham cracker dust and stuff lit up in flames. You can see the terror and the look in everybody's eyes as the chocolate starts melting over their face. That's the last scene you see in the restaurant. And then from Margot's point of view, when she's out eating the rest of her cheeseburger on the boat, the entire restaurant blows up and she wipes her mouth with the menu. And that's the end of the movie. And I thought that was brilliant. I know people are going to be like, what a stupid ending of a movie. It's not. It's not at all, especially the way she wiped her mouth from the greasy cheeseburger with the printout of the menu. I just thought that was genius. So I liked this movie even more after watching it the second time. I understand why people don't get it, don't like it. They think it's a waste of their time. I kind of convinced my friend to see a little bit more of my side, but hey, it's not for everybody. And I respect that. There's a lot of movies that other people love that I don't get, and that's fine. We don't all have to love the same thing. So I'm curious, if you saw this movie, what did you think? Did you think it was a waste of your time? Did you get hungry? Did you want a burger after this? What did you think? Let me know in the comments. If you haven't seen it and you listened to all this and I spoiled it for you, don't worry. I warned you, first of all, but don't worry. You should still go back and see it, because I didn't explain all of the, death scenes. I didn't, you just need to see this movie just for the food, the cast, and the cinematography alone. Just don't eat while you're watching it, because you might want something else based on what he's giving them that you can't have. Like, I don't think most people have bone marrow just hanging out in their fridge. If you do, good for you. You're rich. So, all right. Well, that's it. I know this was a little bit different than what I usually do. I know it's a little bit longer, but I liked it. So go watch the menu if you want. Give me feedback in the comments. I hope to talk to you guys next time, and keep celebrating cinema. Bye.